This presentation explains the layout and methodology used in the business report writing course, which was developed way back in 2001 and has been taught to thousands of engineers and technical people around the country ever since. The course includes a number of assessments, critical elements of reports, report structure, format, as in, for example, Microsoft Word, support material, how the data is used to support arguments, module construction, how the body of the report and the introduction of the report is broken up into separate modules, reader profiles, and survival kits. Survival kits being those nitty-gritties like punctuation and grammar and so forth. The assessments happen the first morning, a pre-assessment, there are various mini-assessments, there's a mid-assessment on the second morning to show improvement, of course, after the day's instruction, and then the final assessment is the writing up of the executive summary. Here's an example given, for example, of the cover sheet of the report. Here's an example of a delegate's writing submitted Day 1, notice no clarity in breakup of modules of the argument, paragraph problem, numerous errors. Day 2, after instruction, significant improvement, lowered fog index, etc. What to make of the fog index? This is a simple test of readability. We teach them how to conduct a fog test on their writing, a sample of 100 words. We then show them how to develop the Flesch-Kinseyde index as well as the fog index. The Flesch-Kinseyde index being Microsoft Word's application. That measurement and that measurement to hit the sweet spot for excellent readability, which for the fog would be between 8 and 11, for the Flesch-Kinseyde between 6 and 9. Then, of course, we talk about the extremes, hitting the sweet spot in the middle, but avoiding that. Most professionals tend to gravitate toward the higher end. We talk about the problems associated with that. I won't go into that now. Then, of course, the 10 criteria for a good report: clarity, correctness, concreteness, consistency, but also, is there an hypothesis way up front? Are there conclusions, recommendations? Have they reflected on the material that they used for the study? What about their methods and materials? How do they study their data? How do they develop that? Is there correct conceptual verb? Things like analyze, synthesize, evaluate, compile, etc. And then the executive summary, which is, of course, what finishes the course off. These are the different levels the report would be aimed at. The report can't go outside these bounds. It has to either help the reader remember, understand, must apply to a new situation. There must be analysis, evaluation of something, and creation. There can, of course, be a combination of these, but this is where the report, in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, must be. Here's an example of a client having developed one group in the entire learning body, having developed a purpose statement, and this, the morning of the first day is spent developing this. This report investigates the effects of raw sugar color greater than 1350 Kumsa units on refined sugar production, with recommendations to control raw sugar color. Just for fun, we give them a nickname, and I call them the raw kids. Initial questions: are they prescribing? Are they describing? What level of Bloom's taxonomy do they use? By that I mean, what level here are they using? Okay, and can one create an hypothesis up front? Here are some examples of purpose statements which are developed, which then bode well for the construction of the report. This report investigates the suitability of various road marking materials for use in the city road network. I call them the road runner. Yes, there's an hypothesis, for example, it is suitable, it's not suitable. Yes, there's a conceptual verb, investigates. Yes, there's a scope, the city. Names and places avoided for this presentation. Then pollution fighter. This report aims to identify various pollutions in the area around a particular area. This report explains the Microsoft Exchange email challenges experienced by certain employees for the period December 2020 to March 2021. Notice here, the scope is a chronological scope. It is not a geographical one. I called them the email scandal. And then the accountant, name I gave to this particular one. This report explains the reasons why the Information Systems Technology Department of the City of received a qualified audit report in this financial year. Notice that. Here's another one. analysis of Facebook population, browsing effect and vegetation, the Mulliton Racecourse Conservation Areas Restoration Site over May to July 2021. Okay. Right, so we then look at the design of the introduction, the 6 subsections of an introduction. We explain to them, then we get them to mind map it. Here's an example of a mind map developed by a particular group for electrical outages, shortages. I call them the high voltage shockers. So the breakdown into the introduction from the purpose statement into the introduction is very important. Then we go into the body on day 2, and just the context of this, I call these guys hot air. And the reason for that is that they're dealing with the accumulation of unsuitable working temperatures 5 kilometers below the surface of the earth in a gold mine. This being South Africa, of course, very advanced in gold mining. They've taken 2 models, problem, cause, solution, which is defining the problem for the body, the cause, the solution. Please note this is to be distinguished from the introduction, which was done the day before. This is now the development of the argument itself, and of course advantages and disadvantages of the solution. But then they would have to take these various elements here and brainstorm them into full body. Of course, demonstrate how they can do that as well. Then we look at how they use their data in order to support their points. If they want to prove, for example, that there's been an increase in air temperature at the bottom of the mine, how would they use data? Raw data, process data, etc. And then we ask them to show us how, this is from another report. Okay, there's the argument, effective and efficient management of component purchases, utilization to minimize cost. All right, there's another example of how they develop that. But of course, if this involves the use of Word and Excel, they would have to develop it in Microsoft Excel as well. Okay. All right. Then we get onto the executive summary, and we define the difference between a descriptive executive summary and an informational executive summary. And we look at the qualities of an executive summary, and we finish off with a particular executive summary that we analyze. And they have to develop something like this. Okay, this from a previous course. And the colors of the sentences reflect on which part of the report those sentences are drawn from. So that's the report writing course in a nutshell.